I don't have any presents to give to the poor. Get the hell out of here.
We could not understand what my sister-in-law Mia was saying. Mia was mumbling and complaining about how things had been going. Apparently, she had hidden a present to pass on to my daughter, Jamie. She told us that the reason she had been in the next room all this time was because she went to hide the present at the last minute. Mia snatched the present Jamie had prepared from his hands with great vigor. After checking the present as if licking it, she threw it on the floor.
This poor thing can't possibly be a present. Whoever gives you this is not family. Go home.
Apparently, she did not like the fact that it was not the brand she had specified. The floor was littered with earrings that Jamie had carefully selected one by one. Mia's children who participated in the present exchange picked up the fallen necklace, but Jamie froze, as if not understanding what had happened before her eyes. Gradually she recognized the situation, and in a flash, tears came to Jamie's eyes. She was only 13 years old and in junior high school. It was understandable for her to start crying. Seeing Jamie like that, Mia made a triumphant face. After a delay, my mother-in-law also entered the room and laughed at Jamie, who was in tears. As if to take advantage of the situation, Mia continued to curse at us. But it did not last long. My name is Demi Rogers. I am working part-time and raising my only daughter Jamie, and I am about to enter my 50s. Jamie was born when I was 35 and will be 13 this year. I have a husband, Paul, who is a year older than me, but Jamie is not my daughter with Paul. I was married to someone else before I married Paul. Jamie is my daughter with that husband. We were blessed with a lovely daughter and lived happily together as a family, but that life did not last long. Her ex-husband was killed in a car accident. Jamie was only 3 years old at the time. She did not remember much about her ex-husband. I was also saddened by his death, but I could not lose Jamie as well. As a single mother, I was determined to raise Jamie. To do so, I needed money. From then on, I spent my days working part-time while raising my child. It was in the spring of 2 years after I made the decision to raise Jamie that I met Paul, who had been transferred to my part-time position. Being a single mother at the time, I sometimes had to inconvenience the full-time employees by picking up Jamie from kindergarten and so forth. Each time, Paul provided detailed support. Attracted by such a kind-hearted Paul, we began dating. At first, Jamie was nervous because he was the first adult man she had contact with. He could sense this, and first he treated Jamie like a friend, not a father. Jamie must have felt Paul's kindness. Little by little, Jamie grew to like Paul. She started calling Paul Dad, and I remember well how happy she looked from the bottom of her heart. During our relationship, Paul confessed to me that he was not fertile.
I consider Jamie to be my real daughter. Even though me and Demi can't have children, I still want to live with you and Jamie.
Paul must have felt very guilty about not being able to have children. However, the fact remains that he had given Jamie a lot of love and affection. When Jamie got sick, he came all the way to our house to take care of her. For me, Paul's lack of fertility was no reason to leave. Seeing him treat Jamie like a real daughter with my own eyes, I did not choose to leave him. He not only spoiled her, but also scolded her at times. I could feel that he really cared about Jamie on a daily basis. We had a thorough discussion and came to the conclusion that we should cherish the happiness we have in front of us now. Since he confided in me, Paul has cared for me and Jamie more than ever. We started living together, and when Jamie was 8 we got married. My father-in-law gladly accepted our marriage. He loved Jamie as if she were his own blood grandchild. Jamie also took to him, and we had a good relationship with my father-in-law. However, my mother-in-law saw me as a woman who had cheated her son for money. Whenever there was a problem at a face-to-face meeting, such as going back to my in-laws' house, she blamed it all on me. I was to blame for not having enough plates. My family's clothes were tacky because I had no sense of style, and so on. The list went on and on. Besides, it was not only my mother-in-law who cursed me. Paul has an older sister, Mia. Mia is also married and a housewife with 3 daughters in high school and junior high school. All of her daughters were calm and gentle, much like her husband. She lived about a 10-minute drive from my parents-in-law's house, so she often came to visit them with her children. We only went home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc., as it took us more than 2 hours each way. Therefore, we would see Mia and her family occasionally. Mia had a personality where she had to be number one. She and my mother-in-law were always badgering me, trying to gain an advantage over me, showing off their new brand bags every time. We're not that wealthy, this is the best we can do. My parents live in Michigan, which is a long way from California, where I live now. Since I haven't been in frequent contact with them, I haven't been able to get any financial help. I worked part-time, but could not afford to buy brand name items. They knew this, and they showed it to me on purpose. Mia worked part-time like me, but I wonder if her husband had a good income.
I can't use ordinary clothes and bags. I have to get clothes and bags that are from a proper brand. Today's clothes cost about $10,000 in total.
Mia's children were wearing ordinary clothes, so I guess she was just happy to dress herself. I would rather spend money on something that would make Jamie happier than on myself. There would have been a big difference in the way we thought. I was disgusted with my mother-in-law and Mia. Jamie also did not seem to have a good impression of my mother-in-law and Mia.
I'll be in the next room watching videos.
When she came face to face with them, she hid. I was sorry for involving my daughter in an adult altercation, even though she was still a child.
My mother and sister have always said things to you, haven't they? I'm sorry. It's always been that way for a long time. My dad and I are on your side.
My father-in-law, in particular, did not seem to think much of Mia's habit for a long time. Whenever something happened, my father-in-law would intervene and mediate. Paul, too, had no good memories of Mia eating his favorite snacks when he was little. After Mia and Paul became adults, Paul moved out of his parents' house and did not go back home very often. So he has had very little to do with them until recently. He married me and only showed up at my parents' house to take Jamie to see them. I did not see him talking to Mia very often. However, Jamie and Mia's children were close. It was pitiful to keep the children apart because of adult circumstances. With the help of Paul and my father-in-law, Mia and I maintained a reasonable distance. Fortunately, Mia never came to our house until now. When we saw each other a few times a year, everything fell into place peacefully as long as I was patient. As Jamie gets older, I think we'll see each other less often. Until then, we'll just have to be patient a little longer. I'm fine. As I said this to Paul, I was also saying it to myself. One day, as the lights were beginning to come on in town, I got a call that my in-laws were having a Christmas party at their house. My father-in-law was very considerate and invited Jamie. It seemed that Mia was the main movers and shakers, but my father-in-law seemed to be cooperating as well. Naturally, Jamie wanted to go. Jamie is still in junior high school, and it would be dangerous to let her go to her in-laws' house by herself. On the day of the party, both Paul and I were off work. We decided to take Jamie to my parents' in-laws' house. A Christmas party is always accompanied by presents, isn't it? We couldn't afford to buy anything too expensive, but we decided to bring a present too. Hearing this, Mia specified the presents on her own. A present list was also sent along with the invitation. When we checked the contents, we found a list of luxury brand necklaces, cosmetics, and other items that we would not expect a child to use. All of these items, all of them, exceeded $5,000 per item. What does she think the children's present exchange is? I had never seen Mia children wearing brand name items. So it was not the children's wish list, but her own. We ignored Mia's designation and let Jamie pick out the present. Jamie couldn't finish her shopping in one sitting, so we went back and forth shopping for the present. Each time, we smiled at Jamie as she made more choices and seemed to be enjoying herself. In the end, it came down to earrings and erasers, a total present costing $30. Jamie counted down the days until the Christmas party. It was an occasion, and we decided to take the utmost care not to cause any trouble. Then came the day of the event. Mia's children had stayed over the day before to decorate the house. The Christmas sweets and roast chicken were apparently handmade by my father-in-law, who used to be a cook. The adults did not gather in the room much because we wanted the children to enjoy themselves alone. My parents-in-law's house has 2 living rooms and a small room in the back that used to be Paul's room. While the Christmas party was being held in the living room, the adults were having drinks in the other living room. Mia's husband was busy at work and could not attend. The voices in the living room could be heard a little from the room. The adults were also making idle chit-chat amidst the sound of happy voices. Mia probably did not want to face me. She was in the room when there was a sumptuous meal, but I didn't see her after that. It was convenient for me also, because I didn't want to see her face. The party was coming to an end and it seemed like it was time to exchange presents.
My present. I hope the recipient will be happy with it.
Jamie held the present in both hands and presented it to Mia's daughters. The girls accepted the present with happy faces. It was Mia who had specified that present, and after all, her daughters were not involved. It was a present to be given to the children. It was the right decision to let my daughter, a child, choose. The exchange seemed to be done in a rustic way, with music playing and the item held by the person when it stopped was given to that person. The daughters tried to enjoy the exchange, but they did not have enough number of presents. My daughter nodded her head in puzzlement, thinking it odd that the Mia kids had one for each of them. I was also sent to look for the present. The floor was littered with uneaten snacks and toys that had been used for play. It must have gotten lost somewhere. With this in mind, we began our search, but no matter where we looked in the room, we were still missing one present. I wondered if I had thrown it away by mistake. At that time, Mia, who had disappeared somewhere, came into the living room. Seeing Jamie, Mia suddenly started yelling at him.
I don't have any presents to give to you poor people. Get the hell out of here.
We couldn't understand a word Mia was saying. Mia was mumbling and saying things that she did not like so far. It seemed that Mia had hidden a present for Jamie. The only reason she had been in the next room was because she had gone to hide the present at the last minute. Mia checked the present Jamie had prepared as if to lick it, then threw it to the floor.
This poor thing can't possibly be a present. People who give such things are not family. Go home.
Apparently, she did not like the fact that it was not the brand she had specified. The floor was littered with earrings that Jamie had picked out one by one. Mia's children picked them up, but Jamie froze, not understanding what had happened before her eyes. Gradually she recognized the situation, and in a flash, tears came to Jamie's eyes. She was only 13 years old, a junior high school student. It was no wonder she started to cry. Seeing Jamie like that, Mia made a victorious face. After a delay, my mother-in-law also entered the room and laughed at Jamie, who was sobbing. As if to take advantage of this opportunity, Mia continued to curse at us. But it did not last long.
You're the one going home, Mia.
My father-in-law rushes in from the next room. Wiping Jamie's tears, he started yelling at Mia. He is a mild-mannered man, and I have never seen him yell, or even get frustrated. But then my father-in-law started yelling at her with a devilish expression on his face. Not only Mia, but also my mother-in-law, who had just been yelling at him, shut her mouth.
Dad, maybe you were listening?
I was the only one looking for the present with the kids. My father-in-law is a weak drinker, so Mia probably thought he was too drunk to see what was going on. My father-in-law and Paul watched the whole interaction. In fact, it was only my mother-in-law and Mia who were drinking alcohol, while my father-in-law and Paul were drinking non-alcoholic beverages. While I was busy looking for the present, Paul was telling my father-in-law that he had been assigned to bring Mia a luxury brand item. Even my normally mild-mannered father-in-law knew that this was unacceptable, so he was looking for the right moment to scold her. But that was not all. Mia's children also began to comfort Jamie.
What are you guys doing? Her poverty is infecting you.
In an impatient voice, Mia was trying to persuade her children to stay away from Jamie. The children did not hear her persuasion. In her haste, my mother-in-law joined Mia in calling out to the children, but they all turned to Jamie. None of them looked back. It was as if they were acting as if their actions were wrong. Apparently, the mother-in-law and Mia thought that the children were always on their side. They were flinching at the sight of the children.
How long are you going to want brand name stuff? You're just a housewife now.
To my surprise, my father-in-law, who had moved the children to another room, told me an old story. In fact, he told me that Mia had always had a tendency to spend lavishly. When Mia was a college student, she started working at night because she wanted money to have fun. Unlike part-time jobs such as working at a cash register, night work paid well. It was understandable that a girl who had just graduated from high school would be so excited to have so much money in her pocket. Besides, in the bar, dresses and bags had to be worn with brand-name luxury items. She would work nights to buy new brand bags, and when she ran out of money, she would take extra shifts. She continued such a life for 3 years. However, she decided to retire after her junior year of college. The reason was that my father-in-law found out that she was working at night. Mia attempted to continue working in hiding, but gave up when he declared that he was going to kick her out of the house. He said that was the only time in the past that he yelled at Mia. After retiring, she worked part-time as a cashier at a supermarket, and after job hunting, she became a full-time employee of a general company. She married her current husband, whom she met there, and left the company. Even after leaving the company, she was not able to get out of her lifestyle of buying brand-name goods. Her husband often scolded Mia for this.
If you can't buy something yourself, it means it's not appropriate for you. Don't let others buy it for you.
All the presents Mia had specified for us were things she wanted to buy.
That's what presents are for, isn't it? What's wrong with that?
Mia, defeated, was breathing hard as she retorted.
Mia, you are living on your own part-time salary now, right? How can you afford to buy so many brand-name goods?
I'm working extra shifts, you know. Everything I bought with the money I earn from my own part-time job.
Her reaction slowed down a little, as if she had been hit on a sore spot. My father-in-law did not miss the flicker in her heart.
Then what's all this?
My father-in-law took out his phone and showed us a certain screen. On it was listed the total amount of her debts from private financial institutions.
Why do you have this?
I saw it in your mother's room. You couldn't have asked for better proof.
Mia clammed up and turned her head down. It was no longer in the atmosphere of a Christmas party. The day was called off because our presence was too much of a distraction. For the children, it was a Christmas they would not want to remember. We bought Jamie's favorite stuffed animal and decided to rearrange the party at home with my family of 3. 3 months later, I received a call from my father-in-law. Mia had divorced her husband. Mia's ex-husband did not know that she had even borrowed money. When he learned of the debt via his father-in-law, he apparently rushed to do a background check. Surprisingly, Mia had also been saving for her children. And all that money was also being spent on brand-name goods. Naturally, her ex-husband could not forgive her and chose to divorce her. Mia took her mother-in-law and stormed into her ex-husband's parents' house. However, that too had the opposite effect and they were insulated. Since that Christmas, the children had also drawn a line in the sand with Mia. Fortunately, they were all over the age to choose custody, and they all told us that they chose their father. Mia's ex-husband had asked her for alimony and child support. Although she was behind in those payments, her ex-husband has been able to earn money from his job, so he was not having any trouble paying for the childcare itself. However, he said it was not easy to raise 3 children with only one man. He had been busy with work since he was married and tended to be away from home. That was why he could not come to the Christmas party.
Shall I watch everyone's studies? I'm doing some research on online classes at work right now, and it just feels right.
Paul originally loves children. Mia's children were also fond of Paul, and he would sometimes help them with their studies when they were at his in-laws' house. I also owed him a debt of gratitude for protecting Jamie. Officially, her ex-husband asked Paul to watch Mia's children's studies online from time to time.
Mia has been divorced for 6 months now, and every once in a while I get messages with sarcasm on them.
Meanwhile, Mia seems to have shifted the blame and kept cursing Paul and her children.
I raised them. How filial those girls are.
I took the trouble to raise them gently. They will regret it. It's outrageous that Mia was divorced.
After the divorce, Mia went back to her parents' house. Since then, my mother-in-law has always taken Mia's side, no matter what happened to her. My father-in-law began to question her behavior. My mother-in-law, who used to scold Mia a lot, has since affirmed everything about her. Now my mother-in-law would be different for anyone to see. When my father-in-law started investigating my mother-in-law behind her back, he found conclusive evidence. My father-in-law asked us to check, and I visited my parents-in-law's house for the first time since the day of the Christmas party. Both Paul and I kept our distance from my in-laws. This was because my father-in-law came to our house regularly and we had no reason to go. Mia and my mother-in-law would always go shopping at a certain same time. They were out of their seats just as we arrived. The living room, which had been glamorously decorated that day, had only my father-in-law's dishes on it, giving it a somber atmosphere. As we looked through the documents one by one, we found that the debts in my father-in-law's name were listed there. There was no need or reason for my father-in-law to be in debt. As we were looking through everything in surprise, we heard the front door open. They must have seen our car sitting there, and they rushed into the room.
Why are you guys here?
Breathing on her shoulder, Mia crowded Paul.
Mia, what is this? I don't remember ever owing you this kind of money.
He calmly pulled Mia away from Paul and confronted her with a piece of paper. It was a statement of the debt Mia had incurred in my father-in-law's name because she could no longer borrow in her own name.
And this is in your mother's name, isn't it?
To our surprise, not only Mia but also my mother-in-law had incurred the debt. Apparently, my mother-in-law had been using the money she and my father-in-law had saved for their mutual retirement to have a luxurious time with Mia. My father-in-law was a thrifty man who enjoyed saving money. Together with their savings from their corporate days, they had about $6 million in assets to live peacefully in their old age. However, Mia and my mother-in-law spent it all in 3 years. That was not enough, and the two repeatedly borrowed money. As a result, the debt had ballooned to $7,300,000.
We didn't have a choice. I was under so much stress paying child support.
Yes, that's right. It was that man's fault for divorcing her in the first place.
Don't put the blame on others. You can't control your own desires. You're all to blame.
After that, Mia and my mother-in-law continued to make unheard excuses. Mia's ex-husband was bad, her daughters were bad, and my father-in-law was bad. Where do they get the idea that they can blame others? My father-in-law rebuffed all of them with good arguments, and finally the two of them fell silent. As if to put an end to it all, he served them with the divorce papers.
It's a lifelong shame for me to have registered with you. And Mia is not my daughter.
Seeing the divorce paper with my father-in-law's column already filled in, my mother-in-law began to apologize in a panic. With tears streaming down her face, she began to apologize. Mia still just looked at it and did not apologize or anything. My mother-in-law started to tell Mia to apologize as well, but she argued with Mia, who did not want to apologize. My father-in-law said he had nothing more to say and walked away.
What are you guys dilly-dallying about? Get on with it and call my father back.
After my father-in-law was gone, Mia began to panic. She thought it was all talk and didn't expect him to act.
You're taking us on now. After all you've done. Don't get involved with us anymore.
We left the in-laws' house, too, thinking that there was nothing more we could do by staying there. That evening, as we were relaxing in the living room, the intercom rang. It was around 10 o'clock in the evening. It was an insane time for a visitor. I checked the monitor and saw Mia. Paul said he would take care of it, so I decided to watch from the living room.
What the hell at this hour?
You're a cocky little brother who can't have kids. Get your ass in there and let me in.
After we left, apparently, my mother-in-law and Mia had a fight that couldn't have gone any worse. And Mia was kicked out of the house. She went to her ex-husband's house, but was naturally turned away at the gate. She didn't want to spend money to stay in a hotel, so she decided to roll into our house.
You've got to be kidding me. If you don't leave right now, I'll call the police.
You're my relative, that's fine. Get on with it and let me in.
She did not heed Paul's advice and continued to make loud noises. Even though he warned her that she was disturbing the neighbors, Mia became even more agitated. Since there was no sign of her leaving, we had to call the police and send Mia away as we had said.
Why are you guys the only ones who are happy? I will never forgive you.
She uttered a throwaway line as she was being taken away by the police. Paul, myself, and my ex-husband tried our best to walk up to Mia at first. It was she herself who destroyed it all. Mia was over 50 years old and could not change her personality now. She had lost all her money and family, and she could not accept the fact that she had reached a point of no return. Later, my father-in-law contacted us with a report about my mother-in-law and Mia, along to thank us for our help. Apparently, my mother-in-law and Mia held each other accountable. As a result, they seemed to have insulated themselves from both of them. They both said they were living in poverty because they both had debts in their own names. My mother-in-law immediately paid alimony to my father-in-law, but there was no way she had the means to immediately come up with such a large sum of money. She must have borrowed money to repay the debt. Fortunately, the debt that had been borrowed in my father-in-law's name without his permission was within the range that could be covered by the alimony payment. He had taken a new place to live and was working hard as a cab driver to make money for his old age. Mia's children have continued to keep in touch with my father-in-law after her divorce. According to my father-in-law, he is very grateful to his grandchildren for their adoration in spite of what happened. Then, on Christmas Day, we met again. At his new house, Jamie and his grandchildren were exchanging presents in a friendly atmosphere. Each of them chose a present of their own. None of the presents were brand name items, but the best gifts were the ones that would bring smiles to the children's faces and make them happy. I wondered how brand name goods and large sums of money can change a person's character so much. This whole experience has made me rethink about money. Jamie is still close with Mia's children. I'm watching them from the shadows to make sure they don't follow in their mother's footsteps. What did you think of this story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.